Welcome to Salcedo Paranormal. It is Wednesday, March 8th, 2023, and today I am covering paranormal news. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media and other ways to contact me at the podcast page, and that is salcidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. And I have decided tomorrow I will start reviewing some of the stories from one of Stephen King's anthologies, Everything's Eventual. I'll break it up into two different shows. So tomorrow I'll review 4 stories, and then next time I do that, I will review the other 4 stories I have in mind. So that's the plans for tomorrow, and then for another review show in the future. So other than that, tomorrow, of course, will be the last show for a couple of days, and then I'll start back up again on Sunday morning or Saturday night, depending on where you're at, and go for another week. So, thank you all for being here to listen. Whether you're here live, I see you all there, thank you. Or if you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds, I always appreciate that either way. So I have a couple stories here left over from the news show, the last news show a couple days ago. So I'll start with those, and then we'll get to the other ones that I found today. So, this first story here, this is from Shropshire Star.com, and the title of this article says, "The Faded Wonder of a Long-Gone Country Manor and a Village Haunted by a Grey Lady." So, this is over in the UK. It says that there's a legend about a tiny village that was once once had basically a mansion in it, or a large home, that eventually was taken down. But there's still an apparition there of this woman. So it mentions a couple different things in this article. I'm guessing they mention that she's a lady, a gray lady, but also that she wears pink. So I wonder if the gray is just some kind of, if it's just faded, if the apparition is faded. But then we'll get more into that in this article here. So now this village has the name of Badger, actually, which sits between, it says, Bridge North and Alberton. And apparently that word is actually an Old English word, badger. It's not originally referring to the animal, apparently. I didn't know that. So, mentions that this village has stayed small throughout history. The population never rose above about 178 in official records. And of course, there was a hall there. It was a grand Georgian manor that were basically, the place was designed for the owner of the old Park Ironworks, an Isaac Hawkins Brown. It says that Brown bought the rights to the land in 1774, and he got to work on the hall, expanding it and surrounding it with basically landscaping. So, this story goes back through, basically it's become folklore now, in that there are still legends of this apparition of this woman seen in the area even after the hall was demolished. And it's This is according to a folklore teacher and expert. It says in Shropshire folklore um, that her name is Amy. I'm not sure how you say this. Boucher. That investigates ghost stories that appear in verbal and written accounts of the county's history. I would love to be able to do that. That sounds like a really I could do that if I had the resources and I could actually just read things visually all the time. I would do that. That'd be no problem. But that just strikes me as a really um, enjoyable thing to do overall. But apparently, Amy learned more about the supposed haunting of this area in the writings of Charlotte Sophia Byrne. So apparently, Byrne lived in the 19th century and was also um, a recorder of local folk tales and ghost stories, and put out a book, or at least her research was included in a book in 1883 about the area. So, and this is where this story came from about this lady, this gray lady, who apparently is, when seen, does not look like an apparition. It looks like a regular person. It says that she wears a long dress, loose at the bottom and tight at the top, showing off her figure. It says it's so the apparition is awesome, often described, if I can talk, as being a pale pink. So the dress is pink, but it's known as the Gray Lady. And she's seen again throughout the area, but people don't even know half the time until I guess she vanishes that it's an apparition. And so there's apparently when the manor was destroyed, there was a casket found in this the remains of the hall, and the idea, and of course it's just a suggestion that there was an engagement ring inside this casket that might have belonged to the Gray Lady, but there's nothing to verify that, of course. Just a neat article about just digging into a local area's history and folklore and ghost stories that go back hundreds of years. So, want to share that. So, it seems like just everywhere there are apparitions seen in different colors, whether it's gray or white or black or sometimes blue. They're all over the place. So, let's see here. Going on to the next article here. This one is from narcity.com, narcity.com. Title is This Haunted Hotel in Canada is like something from The Shining, which is a Stephen King story. And it says Narcity After Dark. So, and of course it has the tagline at the top, just below that says that some guests who checked in here may never have checked out, of course. And they're talking about the Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel in Alberta. And apparently there's an image in this article. I think I've seen this image before, maybe not though. But I don't know if this is something they staged or if this is an actual picture of the apparition there. It doesn't really say, of course. But this hotel is fairly well known as Canada's castle in the Rockies. They're almost comparing it to the way the Stanley Hotel in the U.S. in a way, in that it's in the middle of nowhere in the Rocky Mountains, which also leads to the comparison to the Overlook Hotel in The Shining, the Stephen King novel. So it says the hotel opened in 1888, and says that since then there have been many guests or stories of guests who never left, and or who came back, and staff that came back. I think I may have heard this about this place on a TV show once. That the stories sound familiar. So it's because both of these stories that it starts with here sound familiar. I don't know if it's because it's a common legend that springs up in multiple locations, or if I'm just thinking of the same location. It says that one of the most famous stories, hopefully it's just a story, is of a woman who had her wedding at the hotel in the 1930s. But it said that as she was descending one of the hotel's marble staircases, she tripped and fell to her death. Again, I feel like I've heard that other times before in other stories. So hopefully that's just a sort of a story that pops up in these places. But people have also, the thing about that is, though, I wonder if that's something that is, if the story is told enough times, then people start to see this apparition, even if there's no actual history of it, of this happening. Because there's people that have reported seeing a ghost bride in the hotel, dancing in the hotel's ballroom, or walking down the staircase. Of course, if you see an apparition, you might be able to just sort of make up the story around it as well. So let's see here. Apparently, this story though was so well known that Canada, their postal service even featured the ghost bride on a stamp. So, and there was even a coin as well made with that image on it. That's quite the reputation there. So another apparition that is seen there, again, one of these apparitions that doesn't appear to be a ghost, that appears solid, is that of a well-known bellman who apparently never left the hotel. People have reported encountering this doorman wearing a different uniform than the other hotel employees do, who still carries their belongings to their room, even though they'll check with the hotel staff after to thank them for having this guy do this, and they'll have to report, we don't have anyone matching that description of this older man. Early passed in, his name is Sam, he passed in 1975, but it seems he's still witnessed in the area. And so yeah, that's an amazing story. I've heard of that one as well. So there's other stuff in this article. I will let you all check out the rest of it. Of course, references to The Shining and all that. So just those first two apparitions alone, though, are, again, I feel like I've heard them before. I sort of want to look into that now and see if I'm thinking of other locations, or if I've just heard of this place before. That's the one sort of downside to looking into so many of these places, is sometimes it's hard to tell if this is a similar story from many locations, or I've just seen multiple things now about the same places. Either way is possible. So let's see here. So those are the two articles that were left over from the last news show, and we'll see what we can get through. Okay. Oh wow. Okay. So PDG in the chat here says, nope, not made up. Sam also gets mad if you try to tip him. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's amazing. I can believe that though. That's really neat. Yeah, no, I don't automatically doubt the stories. I just didn't know if I'd heard it before or not. regarding that location. But yeah, that's really amazing though. That's part of that thing where we really don't know what we're dealing with when it comes to just the word ghost. If it is a spirit that somehow is able to take the same form as they had when they were alive, or if it's some kind of a time anomaly, which um, the tipping, uh, that detail, that's amazing in a way, because if you think about it, if it is a spirit, that would make sense in a way. If they're aware of what they are, then they wouldn't need any kind of a tip. Um, and so I don't know. But yeah, that's a neat detail there. Um, so let's see here. Going on to this next article here. This is from leaderherald.com. And the title of this article is Gloversville Ghosts, Utica Area Paranormal Agents Ready to Probe the Undead. That seems like an unfortunate choice of words there, but okay. So this is a location in Gloverville. I keep forgetting whenever I find these articles to check where these are. But this is about a museum, and so this is in New York. Okay. But this is a location that has a museum attached to it, basically, or is part of a museum. It says the Fulton County Historical Society neither accepts nor dismisses the idea or the existence of ghosts, but they welcome believers. So it mentions that this is basically a sort of a promotion about an event that's coming up soon, I guess, where they're bringing in some paranormal investigators to check out the place. And it's supposed to be a public investigation, but apparently, looking at the apparently there's been reports of activity there, and people have reported having things going on there. Apparently, it's to the point now where there's a question that comes up pretty regularly among people there, the people that visit, which is the place haunted? So mentions that people have experiences there that they can't quite explain, according to Hall Saladino. Says, I wouldn't say we have any official stance on ghosts either way. But so this group is going to investigate the place, which has basically records of the area's history, and try to tie that in with whatever may be happening there, as that they find in the location. So sounds like a neat thing to do. So checking in more of this article here. So it mentions that goes into a little bit of a history of paranormal investigations in general. Mentions that this goes back to the 1800s, and that so-called ghost hunting has been popularized in recent decades by they mention names of different TV series on TV paranormal reality shows. So there's not a ton in this article here, but I'm always glad when I hear about these museums and these historical sites that get to check out these places and have them investigated. It does mention that volunteers, board members, and even the the executive director, which is the name I mentioned earlier, Samantha Hall Saladino. Not sure if I'm saying that right. Have reported eerie phenomenon within the 123-year-old building. So strange sounds and lights turning on without explanation. So just another possibly active location. So I think I have time for one more article here. Maybe we'll get through the last two, but we'll see. This one is from live959.com. And this one says, 2 Western Massachusetts landmarks named most haunted in the state. So I'll just skip through the introduction here. It kind of goes over the author's views on whether or not they'd actually visit these places. Now, the first place they mention here is the Hoosac Tunnel. Hoosac Tunnel. Is nicknamed the Bloody Pit because over the years, apparently many people have passed there. Also, there was it was one of the most deadly construction projects in Massachusetts history. There's one incident that is recorded that where there was an explosion in the tunnel, and there were 13 men that were presumed dead, that were in the bottom of a deep shaft. Turns out, eventually, after the search was called off, and the place was investigated more after. It looked like the men there had survived a little bit longer than expected. But it also says in this article here, note the tunnel is in private railroad property, and trespassing is not permitted, of course. But there is a train in the North Adams station that will take you through there, apparently. Now, the other one that this mansion talks about, and I'm pretty sure I have heard of this, maybe even covered it on the show, is the Houghton Mansion. And it's been called the scariest place in New England, of course. And it mentions that Albert Charles Houghton, a former mayor of North Adams, had the house built in 1890. But then he was injured in a car accident and passed away on the property. Mentions other things here. There are reports of disembodied voices, sightings of apparitions, and strange screams ever since. And of course, there are walking tours of the property that are available, I guess today, for $5 per person. So, just a quick look into a couple of sites over in Massachusetts. I believe we know someone that lives over in that state. But yeah, so let me see here. Okay. So North Adams is a town right next to where the Night Stalker went to school. Lots of weird stuff out there. Yeah. Also, it was funny. I was in another server tonight, and there was another mention of Western Massachusetts over there. So, in relation to the paranormal. So, funny thing how that happened, and I wasn't even aware until after. So, that's going to be it for today. I'll have to save the last story for the next news show, and we'll go from there. Thank you all for listening. I'll be back tomorrow with another book review on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care, everyone.